All right. Good morning. Oh, no, good afternoon, everybody. So welcome to Crazy Talk. My name is Lee Thomas, and I am your host, and we have two very special guests today. So today we're going to be talking about yoga and mental health. So if you're someone who maybe lives with mental health issues, or if you're someone who works with people who live with mental health issues, and you've thought, okay, this yoga thing, it kind of sounds like it's here to stay. What do I do? How do I get involved with yoga? Or even does yoga have anything to do with mental health? I mean, it's a physical health thing, mental health, I don't know, I'm skeptical about it. Today we have yoga instructor extraordinaire, Aimee Gauvin, who is also a good personal friend of mine, as well as a very talented school teacher and theater magician, and Bear, who is also here.
Yeah.
So Aimee, you are on the show today to talk to us a little bit about yoga and mental health. So welcome to the show. Welcome to Crazy Talk. All right.
Thank you, Lee. And Lee said dear friend, but she means dearest friend. No, you didn't say dear friend. You said good friend. Anyway, yes, yoga. So I wanted to just start with what is yoga? And actually, it's so cool. Right now at the high school, there's a class. So I don't know when you all went to high school, is about connecting your physical health with your mental health and your spiritual health, and having this almost excuse to just spend an hour thinking about nothing, letting the past go, not considering all your to-do list and all the future stuff, and just hang out. And I think a lot of yoga has sort of become the Instagram yoga has become almost performance acrobatics based, and that's really not what the heart of yoga is. It's about making that connection, mind, body, spirit, and it starts with just breath. And I always tell the kids, so most of us are chest breathers, and we'll just breathe from our nose to our sternum. So if you just take a moment right now to consider how you're breathing, you'll notice you'll feel it go in your nose, you might feel it lift your chest a little bit. And evolutionarily, when you breathe like that, it's telling your body, oh, this is a time that we need to be doing things and going, and there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing us, and we got to go. And as soon as, and I know this is cliche, and we've always heard of just breathe. I'm sure even some of us had parents going up and say, take a deep breath, but it is so, so, so important, just from every level, physiologically, psychologically, spiritually, to start bringing the breath down into the belly. And so if we all put our hands on our belly right now and take a breath and feel, and also you'll notice as soon as you put your hands on your belly, especially in our culture, that's a real trouble spot, and you might have already had some words come up and some, you know how it is. And just so try and connect your hands to your belly and have a little moment of loving intention. And then as you breathe in, feeling your belly swell, feeling your ribs expand, soften on the exhale. And even you'll start to feel a soothing sensation in the brain and body. And it's just so important to tell your body, you're safe. And that's really the message of yoga. It's you are safe, you are supported. There's earth beneath you, there's love around you, and it's going to be okay. And I teach adults as well as children, and teenagers. And the experience is very similar for all three. I think it's most amazing for me to see it with kids, teenage kids, and notice just that one breath, and you can already feel them start to let go. Because I think they have all of our adult feelings, but amplified. In fact, I know that they do. So that perception that everyone's always looking at you and your actions matter so much and everything's being constantly monitored really makes you hyper vigilant about what everyone's thinking and the outside of you. And it makes it very hard to drop into what's really going on with you. And that doesn't always have to be even though I'm a pretty sunshine, rainbows kind of person, it doesn't always have to be like that. It's oh my gosh, just taking a moment to be okay, this is how I'm feeling today. This is what's going on right now. I'm just in me. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to let go of what everyone else is thinking and feeling and just focus on my breathing. Everyone needs that break. It's so important. And I think that's the core of what yoga is. Just taking a step back from the bustle of the mind. Because our minds are beautiful and amazing. And look at all the awesome creations they lead to. but they can take us out of the moment, out of our bodies, out of our breath, because we get so, well, me excited. It can be like pulling down the past, making you lethargic. All these things can take us away from our true experience of right now. And I think yoga, especially practiced every day, just gives you a chance to be like, this is where I'm at. And I think for mental health, when you take a moment every day to be like, yeah, I'm like a little sad today, or like, yeah, today's been a decent day, or like, yeah, I had a moment where I felt really loved and supported by a friend. It just lets you realize that like all your thoughts, your emotions are pretty fleeting. They're like not permanent at all. And something that is permanent is your connection with yourself and your connection with your body and breath. And I think a lot of people are put off by the idea of yoga now as it's become westernized. But I think yoga is a lot like therapy for anyone who's ever been to therapy. It's like you have to go to a few therapists to find one that you're like, yes, that's what I feel, and that's the person that works for me. So yoga classes are the same, and I would really encourage, like, if you've never tried it, my personal opinion on YouTube, there's a girl called, if you YouTube yoga with Adrienne, she's from Texas, and she's so fun and beautiful and accessible, and it's really love-based, and she cues really well. Like, it's easy to understand what she's saying. So that if you just want to give it a try without the pressure of being in the studio and all that other stuff, she's a great person to start with. I think she's lovely. And when I started yoga, can I go into that?
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, just go. I love it.
Okay. So I am a physical person, and I've always been a big mover. I'm on the anxious, like high energy side of things. So for me, slowing down is a big thing. And when I started yoga, it was more about just like stretching and movement and like the acrobatic sort of part of it. And my first yoga teacher that I fell in love with was Rachel Barrett. And if you're in Fredericton and you get a chance to take a class with her, she is such a special presence of like, you just, it feels good to be around her. Anyway, so we were in a class at the Y, which is, Lee's been with me to Y classes. We have a fun story about that. But it's a great atmosphere because it's like really young people and elderly people and all different bodies and all different backgrounds, like all different physical backgrounds. Anyway, and I had lost my dad, and I was in this like phase of, I don't know if you've been through loss, or actually just like any loss, or that mental health state where you're like zombie mode, where you just literally wake up, you do stuff, you like talk to people, but you don't care. I won't curse. You don't give a what about any of it. And you're just like disengaged from everything. Anyway, so I didn't care about anything. I was like a zombie human, just in this like fog of grief. And at the end of every yoga class, that's the best part. You just lay there. And I was just laying there, and Rachel was talking about how yoga is, or the last pose is called Shavasana, but the English translation is corpse pose. This is a little morbid, so just letting you know. So you're laying there, and she's like, it's called corpse pose. And like, I was in a state at that point where I was just like, what? She was like, and I know that sounds, but it's considered a preparation for death, because when you lay here, just as if you are about to die, you accept everything exactly as it is right now. And it was the first moment, and it wasn't a huge opening, but my heart opened a tiny little sliver to accept that like my dad really was gone, that we really had loved each other that much, and that I was a human that could feel again. And it was what I needed to start eventually coming back to myself. And I say a little crack, but it was pretty significant for me in that moment to understand that I was going to be okay one day. And ever since then, I left sort of the purely physical practice of yoga and entered into the more mindful and spiritual practice. And it's really helped, because I'm on the ADHD, like, side of life, as Lee can attest to. We're really doing well right now. Normally conversations are constantly interrupting each other, like, but yoga has really helped me be like, oh yeah, this is like what life feels like, and you can just like hang out for a bit and nothing's gonna fall apart, and yeah, today's a hard day, and yeah, today's a great day, or whatever it might be. But it's really a special experience, and I wish that everyone could have that moment of, and it doesn't have to be through yoga, but of understanding that no matter what, you're going to be okay. And that feeling is a pretty pervasive one. It like gets into every molecule. And I think the other thing about yoga is those moments, because they're done in not stillness, like physical stillness, but without a lot of bustle happening around you, not the frontal lobe's not working as much, they imprint differently. So you can like really draw back to them, which is not something we have a lot. Like a lot of our experiences in life are framed around our own perception, and we'll make up all these stories about them. But in yoga, we really try and let go of the stories. So when you draw back from the memory, and this might just be my perspective, but I find it to be from a really pure state of connection, because you're deeply connected with yourself in those moments. So yes, that is how I started yoga, and then I did my teacher training, and it was so fun and very if you're already a yoga practitioner and considering doing your teacher training, it's like, get ready to know yourself. It was huge for me in my healing process. And now I get to teach every Saturday morning, and I love my group of humans there so much. And teaching these kids at school is really a huge blessing for me too.
Yeah,
I should breathe now.
I think it's like really important when you talk about in terms of yoga not being kind of the way that a lot of people think of yoga. I think kind of yoga, and even just like the act of physical movement in general, has really been distorted by our society into something punitive. Unfortunately, you know what I mean? Like it's like you ate this, so you need to go to the gym to work it off, or you're mad at yourself, so you need to like run, because if you run, then you're a better person, or you're valuable in some way. And I think yoga has become that way for a lot of people too, where it's something that you do because you want to look a certain way, or because you think that only through doing this do you have value. And that's one of the things I really love about your yoga classes, is like you try to go against all of that, like the idea, even now when we did our deep breathing, the idea that like, oh, when you touch your stomach, like in our society, that brings up a lot of judgment, and like trying to let go of that judgment, which is not easy. And I know I still struggle with that a lot, like the idea that like, even when I go to like yoga, like for instance, like your yoga classes, I'm like, oh, I can't do this pose right, and oh, I'm bad at this, and oh, like why have I not?
But that's so cool though. It's so important to notice, like I'm having this thought, and like, is because I can't do this lunge make me a bad or worthless person? And then you're like, no, it doesn't. It's just a lunch, and it's going to feel totally different tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And like, so my mom's a physiotherapist, and my husband's in school for massage therapy. So I come from like a physical background, and like my mom comes to all my yoga classes, love you, mama. And she chirps me like crazy from the background. Too hard, don't like this. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, we love having her there. Lee knows my mom well.
She's
so
wonderful.
Yeah, she is. Anyway, but my mom is like, that's where I get the like, never stop moving and doing things, and like how much you can do in a day makes you a valuable person. And Mom and I together have been like working away from that concept. But in terms of like the physical stuff, so like, yes, it is great to feel good about yourself. That actually doesn't have anything to do with what your outside body looks like. That's what the man wants you to think though. And I think that does come about in yoga. But like the physical aspect is actually so amazing. So my mom, my whole life, she could never raise her arms above her head because she is so strong and from physio, like tight in this area, and would never stop working. Like you should see her. If we're hauling wood into the house, she just doesn't stop. Like she'll haul a whole friggin' tree, and she's only 5 feet tall. Anyway, you've seen it.
Oh, she's goals.
Yeah, she is. But she never gives herself a break. And we've been doing yoga. She does it a few times a week online with Yoga with Adrian, and then she comes to my class on Saturday. And now she's like, look at this, Aimee. And she like crosses her legs, and her knees are like, boom, down. Before it was like, and that's like a year. And now she's got all this like new range available to her. And it's not about like, oh my God, look how pretty this is compared to this. It's like, holy crap, I like can sleep well and I feel good all the time. And like when I reach over to grab this, I'm not like, oh, what just happened there? There's so much, and it's so nice for your body to like have that openness too, because it brings like psychologically, physiologically, there's so much good stuff happening there. Like all that neuro movement, that neurofeedback, it just makes you more connected with yourself, which is like, instead of being, and Lee and I, like with our eating disorder, because Lee and I met in an eating disorder support group. It was so fun. That's right, fun. I saw Lee the first time. I was like, this person's cool. We need to get in on this.
I was kidding in the first meeting.
I know, and acting like you didn't give a what about it.
Give a what?
You were just like, yeah.
I'm here to knit.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's like, you're doing all this movement and you start thinking about like, holy freak, my body is like brought me all these places. And like, if I didn't have a body, I couldn't have met Lee and I couldn't have like walked my dogs today. And like, I am super grateful. And I know that that is reasonably not how I feel every day. I still have days where I'm like, oh my God. But generally it helps you drop in more to like, yeah, moving feels great. And it's not about like outperforming. It's about feeling good and feeling grateful for like all the things my body has let me do. Like, it's amazing. And I think for some of us listening, you're probably like, I will never get there. Because I definitely would have thought that at some point.
Yeah,
like,
sounds fake.
Sounds
fake.
Yeah, fake news. And it sounds like I can't possibly not punish my body or like be critical of it. And of course, like you can't that's like saying, can I be happy all the time? That's not even a healthy expectation for yourself. But can it help you drop away from the like chattering mind that's like, you need to look like this, and like, oh my God, this person can do this, why can't you do that? And be like, good for them. I hope they're happy. Look what I can do. But more like, look how good I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that idea of like movement being something that can help with your physical health, or even like, can help with your mental health, but even like being aware. I remember one time we were doing like a pose and we were twisting in some way, and you were like, you know, when you twist this way, sometimes you might have like a lot of like emotions bubble up, and I was like, yeah, I am having emotions bubble up when I move my body a certain way.
That's cool.
And like that, and I thought that was really cool and really like, so I'm from, for those of you who you know are new to the show, I'm from a very small town in North Alberta, and we did not believe in things like yoga. Like things like yoga, it's like if you want to do yoga, like you move to Vancouver. Like yoga is for city people, and we are like, if it's not bleeding, then it's not. Then you know you don't fix it. Like, and so the idea that something like yoga or something like mindfulness could have an impact on how I felt, it was really something I had to do before I believed it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because I was kind of like, okay, like that, like I'm sure, you know, all of this like kind of
hippie,
out there, hippie out there stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure it works if you really believe in it, but like
sure,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the real world, where like as if the real world is like if you don't believe in things. Like I don't know. It just didn't seem very scientific to me, and I really value the idea of scientificness, and I value the idea of science less now, but it is scientifically proven to have a huge impact.
And I think if you're like, oh my God, I'm too tight to go to yoga. Oh my God, like my body and this and that. It's like, start with the breathing. The breathing is the base of all of it. And you probably, like if you've had help before with your mental health, like breathing is where it all starts, but there's a reason for that. And I think that we always say in yoga, like what you practice on the mat is practice. And that's why they call it, like, I don't know if you've ever been to yoga class or heard yoga, but it's called the practice of yoga because it's like warming you up for the real life. So like, what can we take off our mat and into the world? I know that sounds like pretty corny, but it's actually, so today I've planned a class around Christmas magic because, yeah, I'm really cheesy. Because I think that around Christmas time, a lot of us put unreal, harsh expectations on ourselves, like be happy and have a perfect family and like do all these things and have the decorations and go to these parties and never stop doing a million things that you have to do to have a good Christmas. And I know not everyone has the privilege of having that magical experience of a childhood Christmas, but I do think we all have experienced the feeling of magic. And I don't know if any of you are in Fredericton, but last Sunday when the snow was falling really, really slow, it was beautiful. Yeah. I was like, this is like the feeling, you know, that is like, oh, the wonderment and the anything can happen feeling. And when we put expectation on ourselves, and this is around Christmas, but it also works around any life thing, we lose the ability to connect with that feeling of magic and limitless potential and I guess awe of all the things that we have and all the things that we can do and all the things that exist around us. And so in class today, we talked about how so we did a lot of practice on the mat. I was like kind of mean to them today. So we did a lot of neat stuff with the block and which is just a tool of support, but we use the block as a metaphor for that tool of support, or like the metaphor for the support in your life. And we spent time at the beginning reflecting on all the support we have, whether you're just literally talking about the soles of your shoes or the stability of the muscles in your legs, or if you're talking about the people in your life or the systems of support that you have or the activities that you do that are supportive to your own health. And remembering that that's all around you and all these expectations and other stuff, your support doesn't care, it's there. And so when you get pulled out of the moment because of expectations, which happens on the mat, you're like in the middle of doing yoga and then you're like, oh crap, later today I have this and this and this. That happens to all of us. It happens to me while I'm teaching. You can actually step away from those thoughts, come back in, and we use the block. So we were using the block a ton today. Feel the block. So remind yourself of that support. And then just draw back into the moment and be like, oh yeah, okay, those expectations, they don't make me feel good. So I'm just going to do like, it's not like, oh, do what you want all the time. Woo! But it's like, yeah, what would make me feel good to do today? What can I do that's like that self-parenting that's going to help my like future self and my best self and my deepest self feel good about being alive? And that's like a pretty tall order, but I hope that when people leave, and I always like, we talk about this at the end, you know, even if you just take one moment of like, oh yeah, like we touch the block and it reminds us that we're supported infinitely and things are going to be all right. So I can chill about all these millions of expectations I put on myself.
Yeah. And that self-compassion, especially when it comes to expectations, or even in the example that you gave, if you're like in a class and you go, oh, I thought about something else. And then you kind of beat yourself up over that. You're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be thinking about something else. And then you're beating yourself up over like being a flawed human being.
Or having a brain that thinks. Like kind of your,
like a normal human being. And by flawed, I mean like normal, because like kind of who are you to be perfect?
Yes, exactly.
And
it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair to anyone. And that expectation kind of, it reminds me of this quote. I was running a body image boot camp, and it reminds me of this quote that we put up when it said something, I'm going to mangle this quote, but it said something like, wanting to be someone else is a waste of the person that you are.
Yeah.
And I think with expectations, like, you know, wanting things to be, and that's not saying, again, never work to improve things, but wanting things about your life to be radically different kind of makes it difficult for you to appreciate them the way that they are.
And I agree with that. And the radically different thing is like, where is that coming from? Because just like with exercise, with eating, with mental health stuff, with posting pictures on Instagram, with any action, it depends on the intention behind it. So it's like, do I want to change this because I friggin' love myself and I'm like, yeah, I'm capable of that and that would feel awesome to do? Or am I wanting to radically change because I think I'm worthless the way I am now? And those two transformations can look completely the same, but have a totally different energy and effect to them. And I think with bringing it back to yoga again, I think it's the same with the yoga practice. It's like you can make this about like physical, and I want to have a hot bod, and I want to be able to like do handstands. Yeah. Or you can be like, I want to see what this yoga thing is about, and like maybe connect a little deeper with myself and take a moment of what we perceive in our culture as selfishness and not worry about anything else besides what I'm doing in this exact moment. And they're the same, they look the same. I could be watching two people do yoga and it looks exactly the same, but what they're going to get from it is completely different. So and we always talk about setting your intention yoga, and it sounds again like sort of hippy dippy, but it's just like, why are you here? What do you need? What brought you to this space? And it's okay to have like ego goals too. That's not a bad thing. That's like pretty natural in our society. And also like you're a human, you have an ego. That's okay. But just dropping and be like, am I doing this because my ego wants me to? Okay, yeah, a little. But it's like, what else can I get here? And giving yourself that time to just question, why do you want to make these changes? And it seems simple, just like everything, it's easy to say, really hard to actually do.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like it's all about awareness, right? Like we're not saying, if you want to go to yoga because you want to get a hot bod, like that's not a bad thing. Like it's not inherently good or inherently bad. We're not saying like mental health is important, physical appearance is not. Like we're not necessarily going there, but just the idea that you should be aware of why, or not should. I hate the word should, but like you have the ability or the opportunity to be aware.
It's
of
like
why
it's an opportunity. I like that word.
Yeah.
It's like you might as well learn. Like the more you get to know yourself, the more you're like, oh yeah, I do this and this and this, and then you can make choices that support the you that you're. And then I think the more where you are, you're like, that choice made me feel good. That choice not so much. Or this group of goals has like really made me proud of myself, and just those moments of tapping in help you make decisions in the future around what's going to work best for your. We always say like your high self, but that just means the version of you that is light and free of worry and fearless. And believing that that's possible takes a lot of work, but it is possible for everyone. And I hope that you all believe that about yourselves, or that you can at least try. I always get the kids like, I make them close their eyes and in their own minds repeat, I am of infinite worth. And you'll notice if you just tried now that there's a huge backlash in your mind against it. Like, what is this? And I don't know. And I just ask them to keep repeating it until their brain doesn't say, no, I don't want to hear that. Until their brain just lets it in. And I think once we take an understanding that you are worthy, that you are enough, you can really get to know yourself without judgment.
Yeah, it's funny because my backlash is always that if that gets added on. I am of infinite worth if I do this, and that's like, and it's funny. So even now, like in this moment, I was like, oh, I am feeling some backlash around that. Like it is,
it's work. It takes work.
Yeah, because we do have all of these, whether they're like societal expectations or personal expectations or family expectations or whatever it might be, that like that worth is contingent on something.
Yeah,
like you have worth, if and when you do this, as opposed to just like you have worth because you are a human being and because you are, a living being, and you just do. You just have worth, full stop.
And it's so easy for me to tell the kids that because I see them and I believe that. I'm like, oh my God, like you could just lay there and I would love you. Like people would just love you because you're awesome. But it's really much different to apply it to yourself and to know like you don't have to do anything to deserve this. And that whole like, and you'll see, Christmas is like a testing time you're going to start hearing like a lot of food stuff come up and like guilty eating things. And it's just like really hard to listen to, but you have to be like, you know what, you deserve this just because you exist and you deserve to be happy. And if that's going to make you happy, friggin' yes. Like if it doesn't harm others and it makes you happy, it's a good thing. So let's accept it.
Yeah.
You deserve this just for being alive, just for being you. Like it's okay to care about yourself.
That's a great note for us to end off on because we're pretty much out of time. I told you this half hour goes fast.
Yeah, it's bad.
So Aimee, I'm sure with like the conversation that we had, so many people are probably like, okay, so first of all, we love Aimee Gauvin. Second of all, we really want to go to one of your yoga classes.
Yay.
So if people are looking to kind of get in touch with you or learn more about your yoga practice, how could they, maybe go to one of your yoga classes, or what would you like to see them do next?
Well, if you have questions, certainly message Lee can ask me because I don't know anything about.
Aimee's not on Facebook, which is like she's one of 3 people that I suspect. No, not even 3 people probably in the world who are not on Facebook. So so this is cool. This just worked out. I thought of it now. So I work at Breathing Space Uptown on Prospect Street. It's in the Trites building, and it's our 2-year anniversary over the Christmas break, and we're having 3 days of free classes. And I've been like, can I teach every day? And there's one day that I'm teaching with this amazing guitar player, and I'm trying to remember his last name. His first name's John, and I'll probably get there because I think Friar Tuck and then Little John Little, I'm going to say his name is, but I'm not sure if that's true. Sorry, John. But anyway, they're all free, and that would be like an awesome time for you to come try out yoga.
anytime your first class is free, regardless. And Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. I'll say that again, ADRIENNE, I believe she had Adrienne, but it'll show up because she's hugely popular. And I would love to meet any of you that were interested in yoga. It's such a beautiful opportunity. And if you come to Saturday class, my mom will be there, and you can sit in the back with her and, be like, oh, what is this? And she'll be like, I hear ya. So you guys can do that together.
Okay, well, Aimee, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for all the work that you do. And we're definitely going to have you back to talk about
we can do some fun poses together next time, or a meditation or something like that.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. So thank you for being on the show for the first time, but definitely not the last time. And so now if you really liked this video, if you want to see more Crazy Talk videos, you can like my Facebook page at facebook.com/LeeThomasSpeaks. You can also comment on this video with your email address, and I will add you to our mailing list, which sends Crazy Talk videos right to your inbox. And also don't forget to tune in next week. We record Saturdays at 12:30 Atlantic time. And next week we're going to have Faye Johnston on the show to talk about LGBTQ mental health. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and now we're gonna head out. So thanks again. Bye, guys.
Are we still on?